Have you ever felt that you failed God so badly that He could never use you again? Maybe you've made those mistakes that you cannot undo. Maybe you are carrying that guilt nobody else knows about. Well, if that's you, then the story of David is exactly what you need to hear. Because this great king wasn't perfect at all. He failed, but he also discovered something many people never understand, that God's mercy is greater than our greatest failure. David became as a shepherd boy. Nobody expected him to become king. Even his own family overlooked him. But while people looked at his appearance, God looked at his heart. Even God himself would later call David a man after his own heart. So, God chose David because David had faith. He trusted God when nobody else did. In the battle against the Philistines, when everyone else was afraid of Goliath, David stepped forward, not because he believed in himself, but because he believed in God. And with one stone, one sling, and one act of faith, the giant fell. Israel celebrated. David became a national hero. Later, David would become king. God blessed him. He had victory after victory. But then, success slowly became complacency. On one evening, David stayed home when his army went to battle. That decision opened the door to temptation. The king saw a beautiful woman, Bathsheba, and he committed adultery with her. Then, to cover his sin, he would later arrange for a husband, Uriah, to be killed in battle. The man after God's own heart had become guilty of a terrible sin. No one knew, yet God did know. So God sent the prophet Nathan, who courageously confronted the king and exposed his sin. Instead of making excuses, David broke. He confessed and admitted, "I have sinned against the Lord." In Psalm 51, we see David pouring out his heart before God. "Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me." This was genuine sorrow. David wasn't just sorry he got caught. He was broken because he had sinned against God. He still faced consequences for his actions. For forgiveness does not erase every consequence of the choices we make. But the Lord did not abandon him. He forgave him. He restored him. And he also delivered him from some of the most detrimental consequences of his actions. So David continued to serve God's purpose. And incredibly, generations later, the Messiah, Jesus Christ, came through David's family line. That is the power of God's grace. So maybe you have fallen, maybe you have failed, and maybe you've wandered away from God. Your failure does not have to be your final chapter. If you truly repent and come back to the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, God is still able to forgive. God is still able to restore. God is still able to give you purpose again. The same God who restored David is still restoring people today. He is the same God, yesterday, today, and forever. And always remember this: failure is an event, it is never your identity. And David's story reminds us that God's grace is always greater than our greatest mistakes.